Hi, my name is Caleb Somtochukwu Okereke, and I'm the managing editor at Minority Africa.
I'm Patricia Kisesi, editorial assistant, Minority Africa.
My name is Cynthia Tumukunde Habimana, and I'm the social producer, Minority Africa.
My name is Monge Silas, and I'm the mobile journalism editor at Minority Africa.
The idea for Minority Africa came about when I think I started actively thinking about it in 2018, 2019, I would say. And it was pretty much because I started becoming more active as a journalist in terms of doing more stories. But then as I was doing more stories, I noticed how fewer stories existed about minorities. And it started to prompt me to think of what can be done to change it, right? I wouldn't find as many stories on persons with disabilities or on ethnic minorities. So there was a sense that there was something that I needed to do, right, to change it. But it wasn't yet clear to me how I was to go about that. But then when I started to think deeply I practically thought about what the future of journalism was. And from a lot of my research, I would see data journalism or immersive journalism or mobile journalism. And so I took these tenets together and said, why don't you create a publication that aims to do minority stories while hinging itself on the future of journalism, which is why we use data-driven multimedia journalism to tell minority stories from across Africa, and that we also do this employing immersive journalism and mobile journalism as well. That was pretty much the idea.
For our stories, while most of us like asking about how things are done, what we should do, people rarely ask the why question. So what we do here at Minority Africa, we try to prompt that why in everything we do, because we believe that when we ask why, this will lead to innovations. And also we know that people always fear what they don't know. When people don't understand something, they'll always fear it. So we believe that if we provide a platform where people don't know about can express themselves, people can tell their stories, then other people will understand who they are. Then we shall learn that we actually are the same. We have the same problems, we hurt the same way, we laugh the same way, and we're actually the same people. And then people will stop fearing the unknown, because the unknown will actually have that platform to actually share their stories.
My role as a social producer at Minority Africa is to put stories out there, stories that create impact, to change the lives of the people that are oppressed, to make sure that minority groups are heard, and definitely, like Patricia said, to make us better and create impact in Africa.
At Minority Africa, we are not a publication that will do live stories, we shall go out in the field and shoot what's happening in the field, but we are a slow-paced mobile journalism platform whereby we take in stories and we delve deeper into the stories other than breaking the news. We prefer to go slow on breaking the news, and we understand the story behind the story.
I think that's a very, very important point, because when you think about what happens, particularly with minority stories, it's very crucial for us to pause and understand context and present them in the way in which they should be presented. We have been doing mostly solutions journalism stories for starters. That's focusing on what's working as opposed to just problems as a whole. And we're also very heavy on the fact that it's supposed to be stories by minorities for minorities, so it's very important for us that people telling the stories are minorities themselves, because for the longest time we've had people who are not from communities tell stories. We've had foreign correspondents come to Africa and pretend to know everything about Africa. We've had men cover women's stories that they know nothing about, So the idea for us is to put minorities at the forefront of telling their own stories, and to at the same time syndicate that story and then share it with the world. We always emphasize that we are not the voice. We're never the voice, because no one is voiceless. We're definitely a platform, but there's always a voice, and the voice is speaking, and it's loud, and if you're not hearing the voice, you just probably are not listening. We have several things that we consider to be our value propositions and what we hope to achieve with the work we're doing, one of which is advocacy. So the idea for us is that we can tell stories in a way that in and of themselves can advocate for minority rights without having to say we're advocating, but the stories themselves do that function. right? We also want to create acceptance for minorities. And this is because we don't believe in tolerance. We think that tolerance is an incomplete concept. It hinges on the premise of like tolerating someone, even though like no one needs their humanity to be tolerated, they need to be accepted. So we do want our stories to catalyze acceptance. We want our stories to provide like a perspective of minorities that allows people to see them in their fullness and then like accept them fully. I always talk about the fact that in my language, when we say like I love you, it literally translates to mean that I see you, because I think it's a great example of how love is only possible with seeing, as well as acceptance as well. That's sort of what we want to do with our storytelling, ensure that when we see people fully as they are, we can then accept them as opposed to tolerate them.
At Minority Africa, we believe in the power of community. When we tell stories, these stories connect people. If I share my story and it resonates with someone else's story, I'm in Kampala and it resonates with someone who is in, say, South Africa or Algeria or Nigeria, then you find that we are connected in a way. So we believe that when people, want to form a community where people from different walks of life can converge in our space and share their stories, stand in their truth, and then we support them in that. So yes, so this is what we do at Minority Africa, to create a community for people who feel that they don't belong, who feel that you may feel alone, you may think, oh, you're going through a situation alone, but when you come to our side, then you realize there are other people who are probably going through what you're going through, who have been where you are, and who can offer you the support that you probably need to move on to the next level.
To create awareness, at Minority Africa, we want to make Africa a better place for you and I to live in. There are stories that we want to tell that need people to hear. People do not know about these stories. So we do not stop at Minority Africa until stories are put out there for everybody to be aware.
At Minority Africa, we believe in the power of freedom of people to expressing their views as minorities, whether they are sexual minorities or they are minorities based on their communities. We believe that they are free to tell their stories to the world.
The very big thing I look forward to from the residency and from AKU as a whole is the fact that we're getting a lot of like mentorship and like advisory support. There's so many trainings we've had to undergo and that we will like more that we'll still do, that are very focused on the internal part of the organization. So they're very granular about who we are within, what we're working on within. We've done trainings on human-centered design. We've done trainings on our audience. Like there's so much focus on building us. Because for the longest time, I think I said this in the piece I wrote for Pointer, where I was talking about how when you're a young media organization, you feel like you have to perform like readiness and make everyone look like you're ready. And it's easy for you to achieve external like readiness. It's easy for you to have a theme on your website or have like branded social media pages. But what's harder is to do the internal work. And I think AKU is helping us in that regard. We're able to focus more on what we're doing internally and like systems and processes that are very crucial to us internally as well. And I think that's a very, very huge deal for us.
While we've been able to cover some stories here at Minority Africa, I think this residency is offering us a unique opportunity to cover more stories, cover a wider geographical area. We shall be able to reach more people with the support, more people that we were originally not able to reach because of some constraints. So yes, I think this is a very good opportunity for us to cover more stories, more content, more minorities, more people generally. Yes.
As a social producer at Minority Africa, this residency I know will give us opportunity to reach far and wide by promoting our stories on social media to reach so many people and the world at large.
Okay, in my position as the mobile journalism editor, I believe this residency is going to provide us with resources to tell more stories in more interactive ways, from immersive stories to mobile journalism stories, and in a long run we shall be able to tap into the different markets that other big media entities haven't tapped into by using this, by engaging through more interactive content with the world.
So I think the fact that we are at the Media Challenge Initiative and the MCI Media Hub in Kampala means that we have, like Silas has said, access to so many resources. There's a TV studio, there's a radio studio, the cameras we can use, there's so much help and support from everybody. It just seems like we're in such a vibrant environment that even like inspires and challenges us to like produce more, you know. And I think that's a very, very good thing about the residency as well.
The best part about being part of Minority Africa is I've always believed, deep down in my heart, I've always believed in the power of community. There is an image I always have in my head about how people lived, how people would leave their homes, like back in the day, people would leave their homes, sit together under a tree, maybe under the moon, and then talk and then share. And I believe, although we don't have that today because of the way life has been structured, but I believe if there should be a place where people can actually come and commune together, eat together, share stories. Even when they have food in their home, they would still come to this general place where they would commune and share. So the one thing I appreciate about Minority Africa is that it provides that community, and I feel like part of this community, that team, Minority Africa, and it is nourishing because you grow when you're in a part of a community, part of a strong, like a team, you grow.
The best part about being at Minority Africa for me is the fact that we're young journalists in the making. For me, just growing as a person, being comfortable to, I don't know, I might not know something, but I will always turn to Caleb and he will correct me, and in any other kind of place it would be a little difficult to open up about you failing. It would be difficult for you to be honest about where your weaknesses are, or not even having someone just wanting to just tell you it's okay, you can always do this, it's practice, takes time. And I'm loving it here. I know I'm growing. I know I'm going to be better by the time I leave this place. And I'm just comfortable. I just love the environment. And I'm glad to be a part of Minority Africa.
My best part of being part of the team at Minority Africa is that we get to have our photos illustrated. Like we have graphical illustrations on our websites, and something quite interesting that you don't find it anywhere. Like we can have our avatars on the website, and it's a kind of communication that we have moved on from the traditional photos, and we prefer graphical illustrations ourselves.